Hey guys, it's 1:12 and I'm doing my hourly here on Rumble. It's day 2 of my live streaming content creation for the University House, um, inspired or by my number one haters. Um, yeah, I don't really give a shit that they hated me from the start or and that they told it to my face. I mean, like, yeah. I stood my ground and I didn't leave when they wanted me to leave. I don't know how many years ago. And then they tried to teach me a lesson, you know, and they end up hanging themselves now, didn't they? So soccer is pretty fucked up here in Canada or in the entire world. Um, Made the observation recently that Team Canada doesn't have a First Nations player. Um, and neither not the women or not the men. And then I came to realize that the entire world doesn't have a First Nations player. And then I was challenged by a Mexican player or Mexican descent player saying, "Hey, well, don't you recognize Mexicans as being Indigenous or being First Nations?" And it's like, well, I know that they're Indigenous, but the ones that are playing soccer aren't. The ones that are playing soccer um, in make it pretty clear. Well, they have told me, so not maybe some, not all, that that they're Latinas and that they wear suits and that they're not indigenous and that they see the indigenous way of life as being savage, right? So this is the racism that I'm dealing with, and within my small little community, and they really try to use my white privilege as to redirect their racism. I'm First Nations with white privilege, obviously, white passing. And but apparently, and I also learned recent years that I'm not only white passing, I'm also Indian passing. Not First Nations passing. We're talking about race wars, I guess, this week. I don't know. I don't know. Everyone wanted to like get on my ass about racism without holding themselves accountable for their racism, and or even holding me accountable for my racism. They just decided to say you're racist and then run away. And I was like, "Oh, not so fast there, millennial." I'm a Generation X, the 1973 version. So no, I'm not 60 yet. And I already told my family, my kids, that I decided to retire at 1996. But then fast tracking that. Oh, we're gonna help another friend do with their parking permit category. Did we get it?
No, but this is over here, just
Yeah.
down the road.
I just go ahead and
It's
just
quite a walk, but it's over there by that.
whatever's gonna give
garden.
your peace of mind, and then we can advance to the next challenge.
Yeah.
Parking in Vancouver is hell. We got lots. And well, I live in central Vancouver, the most competitive, probably the most competitive city in Canada. Hmm. the grandmas are competitive, the dogs are competitive, the hustlers are competitive, the like everybody is super, super competitive. Um, yeah, I live in a very competitive environment that recognizes every child matters, and inspired obviously by the indigenous community. Oh, back to my indigenous points. The reason why I don't recognize the Mexicans as being First Nations of the in my reference to my observation that zero nations in the world hire North American First Nations is quite simple, actually. The simple um, truth of it all is that First Nations itself is English. I'm not speaking Spanish. It's there's no uno. I don't even know what nation is in Spanish. Sorry, I just don't know. So we have First Nations is English, which means we have English colonizers. Completely different story and history that they're using Mexican indigenous players to redress or eliminate, or they don't. Our story of our struggle as First Nations athletes has zero representation, and Mexico doesn't even give a fuck about it at all. They don't take the time, and like there's zero like. So that's what I had to say with my fellow soccer player, who I in response when he asked, when I made that point, it's like, hey, there's zero countries out there that have hired First Nations talent. And there's people are like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? Are you sure? Like, really? That's bad. That's bad. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Otherwise, I would have been told about it. And me being the, I think I'm the first female Indigenous athlete to compete on an international level, a real international level in like in the FIFA. Like we have World Indigenous Games, we have Indigenous talent, like obviously. Um, and that was at the Homeless World Cup that I played for. I'm not the first Indigenous player. That's Team Canada from 2010. Those players were the first Indigenous players to represent um, Team Canada and to represent all of us on the international stage, the Homeless World Cup. People like to make fun of us and whatnot, but damn, that's a real event. I love that tournament. Um, but I'm really sad to how that the impact it's lived experience with Team Canada. Team Canada is so I don't know. I, so Street Soccer Canada is been around for quite a while. Um, yeah, this is people just trying to help the homeless. That's all they're trying to do, and they're using soccer, and that's the only international tournament that has hosted Indigenous First Nations players to compete against other athletes around the world. So when I am faced with other athletes from other nations and they're trying to call me a man or trans or whatever else, yeah, they have all sorts of wonderful descriptions for me. Like, yeah, they told me they hated me right from the beginning because I kind of said like, well, I'm here playing soccer because I'm actually in service to the community at large of Turtle Island, because and I just was very direct, and they didn't understand. They just said, "Whatever, bitch." It's street soccer. So there's formal street soccer and there's informal street soccer. There's a street soccer that happens outside of any like organized organization, and it was an organization that recruited me again to be a player out here in the streets with the people in shelters and stuff, and helping being part of that movement. And then uh, we kind of envision ourselves, well, we are part of the Homeless World Cup, whether y'all like it or not. We're part of we're part of the international community. um, some of our players have played professionally, been continue to have the opportunity to play professionally, or they have played professionally in the past. We're a community now, so who cares if you think I'm a loser? Because in our tournament, our environment, we really do have a passion for the game zone, the game, and the power of sport. And there are no winners, there are no losers. The fact that you're showing up and being a willing participant in this shared experience is the double win. It's higher than love, it's higher than joy, it's higher than hope. It's you being your authentic self and you being in the game zone with God. That's why I was out there. Street soccer, the Homeless World Cup and street soccer taught me that the actual game zone is a very spiritual place. So when we and there's a lot of us that get that, that are well, if you're a soccer player, you get it right away. That sports field there is it's our church. For those of us that are like out here being warrior spirits, which we kind of um, found ourselves to be. I have a warrior spirit, and they see that. And warriors do not have gender. That's what we know, that a warrior is a warrior is a warrior. It's a spirit, and every warrior gets that. Warriors protect life, and so I'm not just a warrior. Apparently, I'm a killer too. I don't know. I'm upset. That's why they had to regulate me a little bit, because I'm the type of person that will inflict harm if you can challenge me the wrong way. Um, yeah, it's really interesting what you learn about yourself when you're put up against the wall. Or with your mind hijacked and stolen or being manipulated and whatnot. You just you just turned into the shadow self. It's actually no big mystery. Um, but people just want to see whether or not you're going to act on your shadow self, because we all have that teaching. That's why we learn that teaching about the two wolves, right? And the one that grows is the one that you feed. In in an interview that so I do continue to follow whatever podcasts that the platform that I decided to commit to. I committed to the Heroes Year, and then they said, okay, well, give us 2 years. I was like, okay, well, I'm barely like I'm well, at the time when I started the application, I was under attack on the daily internet wise, and then it backed off because there's a um, people that truly believe they are entitled to traffic me in any means possible because that's where the survival governance is at, right? Um, and there's so many squares that believe that if you, let's say, if you're a woman that is outside doing whatever the F you want after 9 o'clock, that must mean you're a sex worker, right? Oh my God. So yeah, I told the kids a long time ago that the world that they knew kind of like ended um the moment that probably the moment that we acquired the World Cup, because we're going to be hosting the World Cup in 2026, and we've been yipping and getting ready for that for like a decade before that, right? As a homeless World Cup athlete, that's partial reason why there's a bunch of medical students that think they can identify me and redress my identity in any which way possible, which is retarded because no, I am not a patient of anybody's right now, actually, to tell you the truth. I do have children, they do have medical needs, and it does include Synthroid, and that's got nothing to do with fucking like a weight loss or anything, you fucking stupid bitches. I don't know. I want to know how I even came across your actually, I don't want to know. I know that you already doxed everybody's health apps and whatnot, but so I should probably just continue to make you aware that the data under my name changed over the years because I had dependents. And you know what's interesting about these healthcare apps? Yeah, because yeah, Canada hired a bunch of cheap ass software developers that obviously didn't know the language, didn't know the customs, um, and decided to brand us with their elite racism, classism. Sorry, it's not even racism, it's classism. They're they're all there's no race in the elite. Actually, they're just fucking computer programmers. They're not fucking elite, nothing. So cheap ass software developers and whatnot from outside, like we're locally here as part of digital citizenship, we were saying, hey, we're all about placemaking, we're all about hyper local governance and whatnot. And then in fucking government satellites in this fucking somebody who's an engineer or student from I don't know fucking where, I don't know. One banker told me that we got all of the staff that were fired in the U.S. as students again. So I don't know, and they're going around interviewing everybody with existing positions and asking how, what do you want in your app development, and they've built it, and then the person that they gave counsel to or that gave counsel got fired. And now we have a whole bunch of people from, let's say, a lot of these students from, I don't know, the ex-staff of the US or um, wherever else, they're saying, like, we're the new managers now. Yeah, we built everything that you told us to. Well, you did it wrong, okay? Your power is temporary and will last as long as the next Starlink terminal. I hear they go really, they make a, yeah, I guess the revolution is going to be in the scrapyard. And yeah, I'm a little choked that Elon went ahead and put a bunch of satellites in the sky and, this disrupting my dream time, And it's like, I'm just like wanted to stargaze. Well, no, don't bother stargazing anymore, actually, because if you wanted to do stargazing, you're just going to have to level up and get on a starcraft and stargaze from there, because stargazing from Earth nowadays is all about fucking satellite launches and airplane paths. I don't know. I don't. There's a lot of planes in the sky and even more satellites. Obviously, we all know that. So when the Arab Spring came into Canada, like, I don't know, I'm backdating to pre-pandemic and maybe just mid poisoning. So, because like I'm not sure if there's this whole new world order is unfolded in a lot of different ways. First, it was like with the gentrification, but that's too old-fashioned. So then they decided to implement a poisoning, and people weren't dying fast enough, and it turned out to be like quite profitable to like issue all these needles everywhere. So they decided to like create something new, like start all this new smart technology. So the vaccine is not actually, like they were saying, I don't know why anybody would want to trust any kind of vaccine, because wasn't Jordan Peterson, who was the one that ratted out about the vaccine not being a vaccine, that is actually a gene therapy. And that was just identified as a vaccine to help fast track the process. Well, you want to talk about visas and vaccines and this and that. Well, all I had to do is to respond is like biotech, get to know it. Um, According to science, we're indefinite meaning, we're immortal. We can have as many beings as we want, and everything else. In my local community here in Vancouver, Canada, we have Absella as a company, not just stem cell. And I'm not even talking about the universities here that have their own research facilities about brain health and all that sort of jazz. We actually have Absella, and they can like 3D, like they can print off, or they can like create those vaccines like so fast. And I really recommend the community at large, all my trollers, to take a look at what's going on with the research findings. Nadiva as a company. I know Apple traditionally is an enemy of Nadiva, but get over it. And why don't you go take a look at what their software is discovering about protein development and charting and all that sort of stuff. Um, yeah, I don't really care about Apple and its capacity to make the coolest graphics or the coolest games or whatnot. Like, I am seriously interested in biotech, only in sport med, because and I was really interested in game theory and technology and using it as a platform and whatnot to help communicate with the youth of today, because I was always been a community organizer and an active parent, so I was very aware of the millennial life challenges. And my children are 5 years apart, so I've got to see how each generation, even just 5 years, kind of track it, how it's impacted our communities and whatnot and our children. And if you think your little healthy little kid there that has no access to tech is free from all of this, guess again. I parented my children in poverty, and yet they had full access to tech the entire time. And then the industry had the audacity to just to try to hold me accountable for allowing my children to be online from this side or that side. Meanwhile, all their social program, all their, like, every institution that they fund, which is a public education or childcare or community center at large or a playground, all these spaces, there was like a mix of a child that had a device, and yeah, they share their devices, or a child will watch another child like stream for it. But you already know all of this, but this was like something that we as parents like was going like, what is going on, what's going on, how is this impacting my child's brain? And so we became concerned about mental health and streaming a long time ago, and we try to advocate, um, try to get, try to address this form of an addiction, trying to get it recognized as an addiction. And they've done that. They've helped, they've been able to study all of that and confirm. And it has been really difficult along the way as a parent to work with this tech and in these environments in a growing industry. And that's very competitive. And so, uh, as a parent, you try to do something to, it's, you have to address this media on a whole bunch of levels, how it's impacting your community, how it's impacting your school, how impacting your child. And the children wanted to step up and step in and reflect as well, and give their voice, chime in their voice, and it's like, well, it's our time. We got this is what we can do that, this and that. And then it's like, well, you're kind of like setting yourself up there, because there's more to the world than just administration, which is the long and short of what's this tool is providing, is administration. Um, so only give it your 14% of your time, because otherwise, and make sure that you get the 80% of your time with real time. Yeah. But there's children out here with that have these devices, these administration powers, the world in their child's hand for longer than 15% of their time. They're going to sleep with it. So like, so yeah, I had to learn a lot. I had to learn everything about this whole environment. I scanned all these different types of platforms, these streaming platforms, this and that. I had to know everything as a concerned parent, and really dissect the impact on it, how the impact it has on my children, and the impact it has on me, and impact it has on our communities. There's lots of positives, there's lots of negatives, and the negatives are quite extreme, as extreme as the positives. You know, it was my children that continue to inspire me to that guide me where to direct my attention to in the world of internet. Did I get exploited a few times? Yeah, but nothing major, right? Like, oh, whoopsie, you saw me this. Oh, whoopsies, not like whatever. Like, um, lost. I didn't. Well, I didn't. When you're on a new application, you don't know whether or not this button does this, that button does that. Um, yeah. Do people? So yeah, talking all over the place. How long have I been alive for? 30 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up because it's just really an exercise for me today to make sure that I'm here on the daily. I'm tapping in, and then I got to continue to create more content from the day before and start utilizing these apps, right? Because they're a great tool. But so is scissors. Scissors are a great tool. I can cut into anything. Same with a knife. I can do anything with a knife too, right? So it's just another tool. How do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend your time talking in front of a blue screen all the time, or spend your time like watching a blue screen all the time? And I realized that over the years, it's like um, the more that people come familiar with this tool to set up their own websites and whatnot, the people are just gonna they're just basically hyper personalizing their device, and we already have um a body that does that. It's this container human body, right? So this little device here is like it's just helping us turn into the Borg. And so then that's where we have to really practice our kindness and appreciate one another, and be a little softer and gentler to each other, because we are human, we are stronger than we think, and we're more vulnerable than we think as well, more vulnerable than we know. It's like, humans are humans. We're capable of destroying things much, 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 much larger than our actual size, right? So look at it, like, we've done a lot of destruction, but look at all the positives that we've done, right? The beauty, the potential. So let's continue, and are there star travels, stargaze? Little learned recently about the governance of space, and that there's only one act that governs space, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of that act. I'm gonna find out the details on it. I just went to a workshop and learned about blah 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 blah. But that's the reason why Elon, as an individual, was able to send satellites up in space and colonize space, because he's not a country, he's a company. And you know who else is not an actual country or a nation? Is Canada. It's a corporation. And so is Vancouver. It's a corporation. And so that's the difference between let's say North America here, who you all think is going to go down the tube, but we're not, because both Canada and I think probably the states too. I'm not sure. The states are states. They're not a company, I don't think. But Canada is a company. So that gets us a lead on this whole like industrial space shit. Obviously, because like Elon, his little X, all the Twitter accounts. Canada has a Twitter account for every department, which is probably the reason why Trudeau is in trouble right now too. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna end the stream. Peace out.